Shalom Aleichem for Erev Rosh Hashanah, the very last day of Tafshin Pei Daled. We are beginning in Bava Metzia, chapter 4, Hazahav, the gold. Now, this is a very vital perek about kinyanim, about legal acquisitions. We've discussed kinyanim in the past in Kedushin, when we talked about buying land with kesef or shtar chazaka, with money or a sign of ownership or a legal deed. But here we're talking about buying movable items. And it's important to know that paying for something is a way to own it, but is not sufficient in and of itself. It's actually the kinyan, the act of ownership, that makes you own something in halacha. And that's a rabbinical enactment because we're worried that somebody might pay for a product and the product is still in the attic or the barn of the seller, and then his barn catches on fire and the seller doesn't make an effort to put out the fire because, after all, that's somebody else's wheat that he had just sold, and then the buyer will lose out. So therefore they enacted a kinyan, a legal acquisition, such as picking up the wheat or loading it into your kalim or doing meshicha, is necessary to legally fully own the item you're purchasing. So Mishnah of Hazav Kone et Kesev, the gold acquires the silver coin. So somebody's buying gold. Gold is the item he's buying. Once he acquires the gold, then the seller acquires the silver. Meaning the buyer must pay the seller the silver coins to acquire the gold coin or the gold object. In this case, the silver is the money, the cash, and the gold is not treated as cash. Even if it's a coin, it's treated as the object being purchased. The Mishnah adds, "V'kesef eno kone et hazahav," but just paying the silver coins does not automatically acquire the gold. And then again, if the gold is still in the possession of the seller and something happens to it, then the deal is off and the money gets returned. The Mishnah adds, "Hanechoshet kone et kesef." Similarly, copper coins kone the silver. So when he pays the silver, the deal is not done because the silver is like the cash. But if he does a meshicha or a hagba, a kinyan, an act of ownership on the copper coins, then he's got to pay the silver. The deal is done. A kesef and a kohen nachoshet. But just paying the money, the deal's not done. Again, if the copper's lost, the deal is canceled. The deal's not done yet. Maut haraut konot et yafot. The bad money acquires the good money. Like if somebody's buying coins that are out of circulation or a little worn and torn, then the currency is the good coins and the object being purchased is the not so good coins. A yafot einen konot et rot, but not vice versa. Same as explained by the gold and the copper. A simon kone et a matbea. Doing a meshicha on an asimon. Now, a simon means a token. In the Gemara, it means an unminted coin. It's like the shape of a coin, but it didn't have a face or a letter stamped on it. You might remember, if you've used a telephone booth in Eretz Yisrael maybe 20, 30 years ago, and a simon was the token with these interesting pattern in it that would work in some of the telephones, maybe the Bezek phone booths, things like this. So a simon is like a token. It's like a coin that doesn't have a face on it. And here, the asimon is the item being purchased with matbea, with regular coins. A matbea eno kone et asimon, but paying the coins doesn't mean the deal is done yet for the asimon, the token. Metaltalin konin et hamatbea, and metaltalin, movable items, generally, if he has a jug of wine, he picks it up, does a hagbah. Now he owns the jug of wine. He now has to pay the matbea, the coin, the currency, to seal the deal, but the deal is really done. He just has to pay for it. He owes the seller that matbea, that coin. Matbea eno konet metaltalin. But if he pays the seller his coin to get a jug of wine, and then all the jugs of wine in the bar break, then the deal is not done. He gets his coin back. Zeh klol, and this is a general rule about movable objects. Kol metaltalin, any movable item, konin zeh et zeh, can be exchanged for another. There's something called a kinyan halipin, and it's an exchange. It's a barter. So if somebody is trading a jug of wine for an orange, then even if that orange is in someone else's house, when he does a hagbah, a kinyan, an active acquisition on that jug of wine, then he has to pay that orange. He owes that orange to the seller of the wine. It's now basically his. It's been exchanged, even if it's somewhere else. Now, Mishnah Bet is going to flesh this out a little more. Ketzad How does this work? What's an example? Moshach chemenu peirot. If he drew, Meshicha is drawing near to yourself or pulling towards yourself. Peirot, some produce, but he didn't give the money yet. So he's buying vegetables. He grabs the vegetables, a kinyan Meshicha, but he doesn't pay yet. Eino yachol lachzor bo. He can't back out of the sale because he's done a kinyan, a Meshicha, an act of acquisition. Not on lo maut, if he just puts the money on the counter, lo moshach chemenu peirot, he didn't do Meshicha or another kinyan on the produce, yachol lachzor bo. He can back out. So in Mishnah Aleph, the gold coin or the copper coin was considered peirot, was considered produce, considered the product being acquired vis-a-vis the silver coins, which are considered the currency for payment. Avol amru, but our sages did say, even though this implies really that paying money doesn't do anything, Avol amru, but our sages did say, Misha para, the one who punished Me'anshe Dora Mabul, the men of the generation of the flood, that's Noach's flood. Midora Flaga, the Dora Flaga is the generation of dispersion, when they built the Tower of Babel, and they all got dispersed to different lands and different languages as a result. Hu Atili Pora Memisha Eno Bidiboro. Hashem will also punish someone who does not stand by his word. If he's put the money down, he's agreed verbally to do the transaction, then he backs out, he gets basically cursed. It's a Misha Para, which is the opposite. If you've heard of a Misha Beirach is a bracha we give people. Misha Para is the opposite. Though technically the deal is not done until that kinyan of Meshicha or Hagbar, the like, actually took place. Rabbi Shimon qualifies this, because what our sages are saying is really either the buyer or the seller could back out before the kinyan, but Rabbi Shimon Omer, Kol kesef biyado yado alayona. Whoever is holding the money has the upper hand, meaning the one holding the money can retract. So if the buyer already paid the seller for the produce, then the seller who has the money can back out of the sale as long as the buyer has not done the kinyan, but the buyer cannot back out once he puts his money down, according to Rabbi Shimon. L'shana tova, ketiva v'chatima tova, tiskulu mitzvot.